After the entire Saiyan race had been brought back to life, and all those inhabitants had been updated on everything that had happened since they died, along with the reason for their resurrection, the extremely difficult task would begin. Changing the evil mentality of most of the Saiyans while also training them to become stronger, using them as training partners for the warriors' own preparations for the arrival of the androids in less than 2 years by that point. Goku and Vegeta would mainly focus on training together now that the prince had achieved Super Saiyan and could be a worthy rival for Goku's power. Meanwhile, Gohan and Piccolo would be in charge of training the rest of the Saiyans so that they could increase their base power, as well as develop skills and aspects in which they did not excel. For example, learning to control their power levels at will and to sense ki without needing a scouter. Although Gohan felt extremely intimidated by so many violent, aggressive, and ferocious warriors, it was, in reality, only a psychological impression. Despite his young age and the fact that he was far from reaching his father's or Vegeta's level, ironically, he was already stronger than any Saiyan from Planet Vegeta by a massive margin. Therefore, he was never in any real danger from these warriors, even if they tried to kill him for real. In any case, that was never going to happen because he was defended by Piccolo and also had moral support from Bardock and Gine, his grandparents, with whom he began to form a very close bond, especially with his grandmother Gine. Of course, sometimes the warriors would take breaks from their intense training on Planet Vegeta and return to Earth, even bringing Goku's parents to Earth so they could see his home and meet his wife. Chi-Chi felt deeply intimidated but also honored to finally meet her husband's parents. Although with her personality, she got along terribly with Bardock and much better with Gine, even teaching Gine how to cook Earth dishes. During those visits, the other human fighters met Goku's parents as well as Bardock's squad, who, having died on the same day Planet Vegeta was destroyed, had also been revived. The humans were relieved to see that although these Saiyans were rather serious and unfriendly, at least they were not savage monsters like they'd imagined. Even King Vegeta visited Earth, with his son introducing him to his, technically, wife, Bulma, though they had never formally married, and also presenting him to their newborn son, Trunks. Since King Vegeta had not yet completely changed his personality, he found it rather pathetic and disgusting that his son had stooped to procreating with another species, especially with such a stubborn and insufferable woman as Bulma, in his opinion. As expected, he got along very poorly with her. Still, this was quite normal given the society he came from, in which he was born and raised. It was not as though Vegeta himself was much of a sweetheart to Bulma either, but over time, things would improve. As time passed, training with dozens and dozens of warriors at once proved extremely beneficial to everyone's power growth. In Dragon Ball, even basic training can be more effective than any advanced training if done with training partners, and even more so with Saiyans. Because of this, over time, some Saiyans managed to achieve Super Saiyan. Bardock, of course, but also King Vegeta, Bardock's squad, and a few other Saiyans. Nevertheless, they were still vastly weaker than Goku and Vegeta, who were growing extremely powerful by training so intensely with one another, something that had not happened at that point in the original story, significantly boosting their power. King Vegeta grew disgusted upon realizing that maybe his son and his rival Kakarot were right, and that social classes among Saiyans did not matter. Those who gained Super Saiyan had almost nothing in common in terms of elite or low-class status. Both lower and upper-class Saiyans could attain the form. Seeing that it was neither so special nor truly legendary, nor even exclusive to his royal bloodline, King Vegeta fell into a deep existential crisis regarding his role as King of the Saiyans, wondering what made him legitimate as king if neither he nor his dynasty had anything special in their genes. Furthermore, not even counting Goku and Vegeta, warriors like Bardock were slightly above him as well, frustrating him immensely as he lost confidence in himself, almost regretting and resenting his son for bringing everyone back to life, only to humiliate him this way. Eventually, Goku and Vegeta also informed their families about the threat of the androids in the future and how Goku would die from a heart virus, worrying Bardock and Gine greatly. They kept a close watch to ensure that Kakarot took his heart medicine as soon as he felt the first symptoms of the disease. Over time, some Saiyans became strong enough to serve as decent training partners for Goku and Vegeta, which also forced Piccolo to push himself harder, and Gohan managed to achieve Super Saiyan much earlier than in the original story. With so many Super Saiyans training together, it was inevitable that someone would eventually come up with the idea of maintaining Super Saiyan constantly in order to better control the form, quickly discovering the so-called full power, or grade 4 state. This gave a huge advantage to several warriors, pushing their powers even further. Because of that, Goku and Vegeta were immeasurably stronger than they were in the original story at that point. Even though everything was going well and it was great for Goku to have a relationship with his parents, a taboo subject still remained among them. One that always made family gatherings awkward. The subject of Raditz. Obviously, by this time, Goku had explained to them everything that happened with Raditz and how he died due to his own actions, but despite understanding why Goku had to do what he did back then, Bardock and Gine now wanted him to give Raditz the same second chance he had given them in their entire race. Eventually, Goku agreed, deciding to revive Raditz as soon as Earth's Dragon Balls became active again, resulting in a very tense and uncomfortable situation for everyone, especially for Gohan, who still carried the trauma of having been kidnapped as a child by his uncle. Although Raditz's first thought upon being revived was to kill absolutely everyone, especially his brother and Piccolo, the presence of Bardock and Gine managed to calm the impulsive Saiyan. Even so, it would take him a long time to forgive Kakarot for killing him, though that was basically his own fault. Again, he would take a long time to admit it. Time continued to pass, finishing up the final year before the androids' arrival. Goku and Vegeta asked some Saiyans if they wanted to come to Earth to help fight the androids. Naturally, Bardock and his squad jumped at the chance, eager to test their powers as Super Saiyans. King Vegeta also decided to go fight with them, hoping for a chance to unleash his fury on those so-called androids, while Gine traveled along as moral support for Chi-Chi and the others who were not fighters, since she was not a warrior and had never resumed training. Combat was simply not something she enjoyed. Raditz, however, preferred to avoid the situation by staying on planet Vegeta alone. And besides, he was too far behind in terms of power to be of any help in the upcoming battle anyway. Because Goku's parents were more involved in his life, he actually took his heart medicine, so there were no more problems on that front. When the fateful date and location arrived where the androids would appear, everyone went there to fight, waiting patiently for these enemies to show up. While they waited, Yajirobe bought senzu beans for everyone, and as he was about to leave the area, he was the first victim of one of the androids' attacks. The enemy launched an energy blast that destroyed his flying vehicle, but fortunately he survived by falling into the ocean. Gohan was sent to rescue Yajirobe, while the rest of the group spread out through the city to locate the androids since they had no detectable key. Unlike the original story, where the group was smaller, this time it was much larger, so by the time Yamcha had the bad luck of running into androids 20 and 19, he was saved at the last second by Fasha before Dr. Gero could absorb his energy and impale him through the chest. Yamcha and Fasha immediately flared their ki so the others could find them, and everyone quickly arrived on the scene to confront the androids. Android 20 then began to ruthlessly destroy several occupied buildings with I-beams, only to be stopped by Goku's furious blow. Goku then negotiated with Gero to go fight somewhere without civilians, and Gero, unfazed, accepted. Thus, everyone followed the androids to a deserted area for the battle. Although the androids' cold robotic demeanor was unsettling, the fighters were not too worried. The only question was who would fight first. Naturally, Goku wanted to fight. He was in perfect condition, having taken his medicine on time, but Vegeta stepped in, wanting to show everyone his superiority as well. It was at that moment, however, that King Vegeta asserted his authority over his son, insisting that he be the one to fight Android 19, and the others ultimately accepted. By this point in the story, King Vegeta, along with Bardock, had a power level comparable to Goku and Vegeta from the original timeline at the start of that saga, whereas the Goku and Vegeta of this alternate timeline already had full power Super Saiyan, grade 4, and were about as strong as Goku was during the Cell games in the original series. Ironically, letting King Vegeta fight the android was better for having an interesting battle, since otherwise Goku and Vegeta would have wiped out either of the two androids. It also gave everyone the chance to see just how much father and son resembled each other. King Vegeta fought with the same brutality and satisfaction in causing damage that his son did, ultimately finishing off Android 19 in much the same way Vegeta did in the original storyline. Astounded by King Vegeta's display of enormous power and realizing only then that he was clearly outmatched, Dr. Gero tried to flee, but a vigilant Bardock blocked his attempt and prevented his escape, setting him up for the vicious beating he was about to receive. Bardock fought the other android, tearing him to pieces the same way King Vegeta had done with 19, finishing Dr. Gero off before he could get back to his lab to awaken the other androids. It was right at the moment Bardock finished off Dr. Gero that future Trunks arrived at the battlefield, completely confused by the sheer absurdity of the situation. From his perspective, nothing made sense. He was seeing 2 Gokus and 2 Vegetas, and 2 androids in pieces that looked nothing like those from his future. Terrified, he realized that the timeline had changed far more than he ever expected. Goku and the others tried to calm Trunks down, who was nervous about so many new faces, and Goku explained everything that had happened over the past 3 years since they last met, how he decided to revive the entire Saiyan race.